It's that time of year again! Halloween! Or in my case, I suppose, Harroween? And with that comes a new event in Warframe, and it's a returning Hallowed Nightmare event with a couple of changes. So let's get straight into it. Good evening! Welcome to the Urban Space Zone. I'm your host as always, the Urban Spaceman, and Halloween. It's honestly one of my favourite times in the year. I mean, it's only a couple days after my birthday, so yeah, that really explains a lot about me, to be honest. And it also happened to spawn this video.
You've been looking at these naughty pictures again! Oh my.
But Hallowed Nightmares is honestly one of my favourite events, considering how unique it is, and how it makes level 1 enemies an actual challenge. And I know, that's hard to believe. In these 3 missions, you're stripped of your weapons, power, energy focus, tenno, gear wheel, and you're left with just you and your fists, pretty much. Much like sparring. And on top of all of that, your shields and health are at a minimum. And for the first mission it's at 100 for each health and shield, and the rest cut it to 50 just to put a little more pressure on you. The missions are sabotage missions, but don't let that fool you. There will be something waiting for you at the end, and your basic objective for these is simply to get to the end. In all honesty, simple, right? Well, considering there are multiple infested coming at you, and you've got nothing but your fists, can make it a pain. If you're bad at parkour, and if you want to learn more about sorry, the shameless plug in me got a bit carried away. I'll stop. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Your main challenge is hacking these consoles, to grab power cells, and to power the door. And that's really the only tedious thing in this mission, but not the most challenging. Soon you'll come across a giant pumpkin and prepare yourself, because not only are the infested feeling rather spooky today with their ghost cosplay, but so is the Juggernaut, or in this case as he's called, the Jack O Naut. And I can't lie, this has got to be one of my favourite bosses in all of Warframe. It feels similar to the Razorback in the fact that you can't damage it directly, but it feels more, I don't know, alive. Because the Jack O Naut feels like a threat that you have to face head on, instead of hiding behind the bursas and waiting for them to do the damage. And like I said, he can't be damaged directly, so how do you kill him? Well, real simple actually. You just hit these pumpkin stacks when the Jack O Naut is about to attack or is near. And this is honestly genius, because you have to lure this thing out. You have to make it aware of your presence, and you have to think about where you're moving before you move there, or you'll get procced to oblivion. And if you look at all the other bosses, like the whole principle is just pushing out as much damage as possible, except with the Razorback, but we've already gone into how that's not as good as this one. And pushing as much damage really isn't an option, at least as far as this event is concerned. And it honestly shows the ingenuity of Digital Extremes in that you don't need to make a copy-pasted boss fight with a higher level to count as a challenge. No, you can copy and paste a mini-boss, put a pumpkin on its head, put its level to 7, and use the arena as the only means of damaging it. I mean, let's be honest, we'd all rather have the latter. At least we can say that the Jack O Naut and the Juggernaut are completely different in how you fight them. Maybe not in the way they attack, but then you look at Lephantis and Hemocyte and it's like, oh, you two are just both carbon copies. It's like DeviantArt all over again! But that's only one mission out of 3. And your reward comes via message from the evil Lotus, which isn't far from the truth. And she gives you the Day of the Dead sigil, which looks alright. The effects are nice, but a little bit too lacking for my liking personally. But that doesn't mean it's bad. I know these kids at Hot Topic will love this, all because it has a skull on it. The other 2 missions are the same, except a bit more challenging. The second mission bumps the levels from the basic enemies from 1 up to 7 and beyond, as well as making the Jack O Naut a bit more tanky, with the reward for this being the Day of the Dead Dread Skin. And if that doesn't sound like some weird nursery rhyme, then I really don't know what does. And the third is honestly my favourite, just because I love speedrunning missions. A thing that I desperately want in normal Warframe bosses, and that is a time trial. I don't know why this is exclusive to the event, because imagine having separate time trials for all bosses, and having greater rewards for completing it in a much less time. Or even better, a gauntlet, where you fight every single boss in Warframe simultaneously. Oh, I'm a bit of a masochist if I think that's a good idea, but I'm getting way too ahead of myself now. The prize for this is a simple Orokin reactor that you need 666 points for. Yeah, I honestly see what you did there, DE, but you're wrong. It's actually 616, get your facts right. And basically how this works is that you start off with 1,000 seconds in the clock, and you guessed it, beat it as fast as possible. In all honesty, you've got plenty of time to beat the Jack O Naut, who's now jacked up to level 10. And to be specific, you've got about 5 minutes and 34 seconds on the clock to beat this mission, which isn't bad at all. That honestly isn't bad at all. I did it in my first try, and if I can do that, then you can do that too. And that's about it for the event, but before we end off this video, I've got to point out some of the small differences between the last Hallowed Nightmares back in 2016, which I missed by the way, and the one we have now. The fog back in 2016 was orange, so you could see a lot better without turning that brightness all the way up and burning your retinas in the process. And the infested are now unique and look like ghosts or ectoplasm, and in 2016, they just look like they forgot to bring their costumes to the Halloween party. It's like they thought they were dressing up for a funeral. It's like the opposite of that Only Fools and Horses episode.
I was really cut up yesterday when I heard about your dad, your husband. Still, at least he didn't suffer.
No, he had a good innings, and he'd have been well chuffed to see all his family and friends turn up for his wake like this.
And fun fact, you know the vampire lotus? Well, she was used all the way back in Halloween 2013, 3 years before the original Hallowed Nightmares. It's just really cool to see a 3D rendered version of that. So that about wraps this event up. It's things like this that make Warframe more than a game, but an experience. And I'll stop right there with that, because if I keep going on, I'll start sounding even more pretentious than that statement already was. So anyways, this has been the Urban Spaceman. Oh wait, hang on. I've got one more thing to do. So, at the end of every single video, I'm gonna pay a whopping 305,000 fucking Kuva to re-roll this. So, let's just do the first one first and foremost, and let's see exactly what we get. Anyways, it's been the Urban Spaceman. Like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't. Hit the subscribe button to be part of the Conscious Zone, and hit the notification bell to be part of the Hallowed Club. And I'll see you all in the next video.